was a point where I just wanted to end my life. I remember at 17 where I felt lonely. I felt abandoned. I felt like if people knew me, but they didn't. I felt like nobody cared. Like if a kid was standing on the side of a street and his dad was to walk by, the dad will probably just look at him, shake his head, and not even really acknowledge him. That's how I felt at 17. I remember going through depression. I remember going through anxiety. I remember having knives on the side of my bed. You're not telling anybody. Going to sleep with a bat that I've had as a little kid. Because that's all I wanted to go back to. I wanted to go back to those days where I didn't feel like that. I didn't feel like I wanted to die. And nobody knew that I wanted to use that same bat to pretty much beat myself until I was dead. I remember from 17 going on to 18, my dad left the house out of nowhere. And there's a lot of young boys that feel like that. There's a lot of young boys that have to grow up at a young age, and I was one of them. I didn't know which way to go. My dad was supposed to be the example. The men in my family were supposed to be the example on how to live. And they failed me. But I knew I wasn't alone. I knew there was young kids and young boys out there that felt my pain. I knew it. The problem is I just didn't know them. And I feel like that's what a lot of young people go through. I feel like that's a lot of what people go through. That there's hope, but they just don't know where to go. I remember 18. Depression got so bad. My parents wanted to send me to St. Luke's Hospital, which is a mental hospital that people go to, struggle with depression and bipolar and so many other things. And I remember I didn't want to get out of bed. I remember calling one of my friends and asking him, "Hey, do you have a gun? Do you know anybody that has a gun?" And I blamed taking somebody else's life, but really, that somebody else was my life. I remember that at the age of 18. I remember still continuing to sleep next to knives, not knowing when my last day was going to be my last day. I remember my mom coming home and saying, "Son, don't do it." She came home from work and that was her only words. She said, "Son, don't do it. We love you. There's people that love you." And for years I've struggled with that. I've struggled with hurting people because of what I went through. I have nightmares. I have bad dreams that wake me up still to this day, but I know now. The name on my shirt isn't just a name. Remember at age of 16, accepting this name. And it was tough. It was right before all this crazy stuff started happening. And now a few years later, I look back and I now know why I went through what I went through. It was for a purpose. It was for a plan. It was because there was somebody else that I wanted to touch. There was somebody else that God had a plan for me to reach. To tell him, that young man that I can relate to, that somebody does love them, somebody does care about them, that they're appreciated, that they're wanted, that even though they feel neglected and it might seem like they're neglected on the outside, they're really not. Jesus loves you. There's a plan for you. There's a purpose on why you wake up every day. And years later, I still am finding that plan out. I'm still trying to unravel this whole thing called life. I still struggle with anxiety at times. I still struggle with not being good enough for what culture says or what this world says. So I feel what you feel. And again, I just want to let you know that you're loved. You don't have to do this alone. There are people around you that love and care about you. And there's a creator that not only created this earth, but created you, that has greater things that you can ever think of.